So what's up, guys? This is going to be a really interesting video, I hope, and hopefully entertaining. This is my buddy Kent. He is going to join me tonight for a really just kind of like unofficial tasting of the Fresh Fest, which is the first black run beer festival in the country. And then this year, of course, with COVID, they had to go digital. So I ended up getting a pack of the Fest beers from Tavour. And that's how I found out about the Fest. I didn't want to drink them by myself, because what fun is that? So my buddy Kent here decided to agree to join up and be on video.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm good for, consumption.
Yeah, so he'll help me out. We'll talk through each beer and we'll kind of explore. We're not out here to review the beer. This is just informal impressions of the beer. It's mainly just to enjoy the beers, actually. That's the number one goal. But maybe you guys will look into some of these breweries, and maybe hopefully next year we can, potentially you can go to Fresh Fest in person and actually join the fest and see the bands and see the speakers and like get involved, and that's probably the way to do it if we're lucky next year. So yeah, so we're just gonna start cracking beers, explore them and talk about them for a little bit, and then there's 7 beers for us to get through today. And there's actually a little bit of a variety in style. We got Pilsners, we got IPAs, we got sours, and we actually have a stout as well. So it's really cool that the Tavour was able to get like a group of the beers together, so there's a little bit of something for everybody. Before we start, you gotta go in the description. I'll have a link to Kent's Instagram channel, or Instagram account, so go follow him and check out all the awesome food stuff he's doing. Link in the description, hit him up, give him a follow, check out all his really fun content.
It's gonna be great.
And yeah, so let's get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it, man. Yeah, so I think what we were kind of thinking about was just what we could do to preserve the palate as much as we possibly could, right? So natural progression, it seems like we should start with the lagers or pilsners first, and then move on to the sours, just because like it's bright, right? So it's gonna hit the palate really nicely. And then after that, we'll go to the IPAs, because I feel like if we switched it around, the IPAs might have overwhelmed the palate a little too much, and then maybe we wouldn't get a lot of the nuance out of the sours that we need to. And then at the end, it's stout, that's almost like a dessert, essentially, right? That we can just like kind of cap off and finish on, so.
Yeah, and then Kent's the food guy, so his palate is much more sophisticated than mine. So I'm glad to have him on board, because he's gonna probably have a lot of things to say that I probably would have never thought of. So that's why I'm really excited to have Kent here with me, and we can actually talk about the flavors of these beers and hopefully convey more info to you guys, and hopefully it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And then if the brewers happen to see this, maybe it'll be exciting for them to have somebody really far away from Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, and where a lot of these breweries are from, that we're getting to their beers, which obviously none of us would have been able to go to the Fresh Fest this year. So
yeah, and I think it's exciting to be able to kind of try beers from like a different state in general. When you had told me about this, I was like, oh man, like Washington beers, like because this is supporting, is it like black-owned breweries or persons of color?
I think it's all people of color. All the breweries have people of color, and I think the whole festival, to my knowledge, is the first black run beer festival in the country.
Yeah, and I think that's super significant in itself, but to see what like people are doing with beer in general, like in different regions, I think that's gonna be tons of fun.
All right, so I think we gotta start with the first beer, and it is Between You and I.
Yep.
It is our triple-decocted Czech Pilsner. And we had to look up decocted, because obviously we're not pro brewers or anything. And it seems like it was boiled. The hops must have been boiled, or we suspect it's probably what happened.
Yeah, it seems like it's just like a fancy term for just the process that it kind of goes through. So maybe it was like triple boil. I don't know, right? Like it seems strange, but I bet you it's really great, because I think it's like, is it a triple decocted like Czech Pils?
Czech Pils, yeah.
Yeah, so
Czech-style Pilsner, yeah.
Super excited for that.
So
one.
This is actually a collaboration between Green Bench, when they're out of Florida, and I've actually been to their brewery, and then 4 Points Brewing out of Pennsylvania. A lot of the beers we'll be getting through will be from Pennsylvania, because that's kind of where the fest is. So let's just get it going here.
Yeah.
Get a pour.
Yeah, and so basically I think like throughout this entire process, we're probably just gonna end up splitting these cans.
Yeah.
Just for sobriety's sake. That's probably a way to go about it. And maybe to preserve a little bit of that palate.
Yeah, so, you know, you got a Czech Pils that's going to be pretty clear, you know, no surprises there. So, yeah, there you go.
Looks awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Between you and I, it's a good name. That is a crispy boy.
Yeah, can we just, I'm gonna fully admit, I'm straight up crispy boy.
Yeah.
It used to be all about the IPAs, right? But then at a certain point, when you've had so many, you just want something nice, light, crisp, and like easy on the palate, and almost like dangerously easy to pull back. And I almost feel like this is a really great start. It's a dangerous start. Because had you given me that full can, I don't know, 2 or 3 goes and it'd just be like gone.
Yeah, it's super crisp, super like light, and really refreshing actually. I know this is our first one, but yeah, I mean, if you're out like on a beach or you're out somewhere and it's warm, this beer would just be like exactly what you want to drink.
Yeah, give me a hot day or after like long days of work outside, something like that.
I don't know. So the triple decocted thing to us is still a little bit of a mystery. Obviously, it was probably for the hops, but it doesn't say anything about hop varietals or what the decoction does for the hops. So I guess we'll have to leave that to more of the experts out there. If you guys know, leave me a comment below if you guys know what that process is and what it does and to the flavor of a Czech-style Pils.
Yeah, maybe it just, it's like a cleansing or something like that, right? And just makes it a little bit cleaner on the palate, or just like through and through.
That could be.
Possibly, right? Like this is just me spitballing, but it just kind of seems in that way, because
it is very clean, that's true.
Super clean, for sure.
Yeah, it's like you get just like really nice malt flavor and there's hardly anything else to it, which in a Pilsner, that's actually desirable. And sometimes I feel like some of these, the brewers like to experiment with hops and Pilsners, and sometimes that doesn't jive well with me too much because, like Kent was saying, you know, if you want to drink hops, go drink an IPA. That, you know, you shouldn't be really looking at Pilsners. And I know brewers get bored, and that's probably why they feel like they want to experiment and mess with hops and lagers. But for me, I want the malt, I want the clean, crisp flavor, and I'm not really looking for hops when it comes to lagers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're like reaching for something that's crispy, like why kind of mar it with something that is just like going to overwhelm that palate? It's just, I need something nice and easy, and that's kind of what it should be. Does that make us, or does that make you a purist in that way? I
don't know, maybe, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you have like people who are really serious about lagers and like the Reinheitsgebot, the German, I butchered that, I'm sorry,
That's so great. Yeah.
Who are like, oh yeah, it has some kind of weird wheat malt or whatever in there. It's not even a real beer, you know, and so I don't think like wanting a Pilsner to be like pure lager is all that outlandish. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen that beer evolution chart? You start your beer journey by drinking lagers, and then you end up at the end when you're like an expert, all you want to drink is lagers. It's just a really funny thing. Have you seen that?
You know what? I have not, but I can tell you that I feel like I can relate to it, to where it's like you start at lagers and you get a little bored of it, then you're like, oh, let's get crazy and do like some hops or some kind of like weirdly brewed thing, and then at the end of it all, you're like, you know what? I think it's time to go back home, right?
And I think you'll hear people say this comment, I hear it a lot actually, it's like, oh, I want beer that tastes like beer. Well, that's lagers. They want lagers. That's what they want to drink. When you think about what a beer flavor is, it's the malt of a lager and the crispy kind of carbonation and everything that goes with it. And I think when you hear people say that, it's like, well, it could mean actually two things. It could mean they want to drink really good lagers, or they want to drink crap like Bud Light. I only bring up that point though, is because that's where I started with beer.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
I don't consider that beer flavor, right? Like when people, like I was saying, they could mean two things. It's like you want to drink like a Bud Light, but it's like, no, German style, Czech style Pilsners, lagers, that's the stuff. I think that's the stuff people are talking about.
Like the stuff that dreams are made of. And in that way, I think there really is that argument for lagers, Pilsners, crispy boy beers. Like there is way more than Bud Light and Coors Light and all of the things that we all know and grew up on, like Keystone, right? Oof. Like, there's a lot more to it than just that. And when you find an actual like good one, like you'll understand that. So I'm almost like imploring you guys, like if you are a person that's like, oh, Pilsner, like if I'm gonna waste my calories, I want like something that has a higher ABV, or just has a little bit more flavor and taste. But once again, like if you find the right one, like 100% it's worth it. And I think that's where you kind of get hooked.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to Green Bench because I've actually featured one of their beers when I played a game called Broforce. You should go check that video out. That was a lot of fun. But I've actually been to Green Bench down in Clearwater. It's a really cool brewery, and I wish we got there kind of late in the night and they were kind of closing up, so I only had a couple beers there, but I hope to go back someday. It was a really awesome experience. I assume 4 Points, I'm not sure how Green Bench got into the collaboration for this one, being that they're out of Florida, but hey, I'm all for it because this beer's great.
100% on board. It's, like I said, dangerously good.
Super good, yeah. Like if you're out at the beach or like on a boat or something, like this would be, I could drink this all day. I mean, not get tired of it. Super refreshing.
Is there even a percentage? I mean, yeah, 4.7. Super easy, as you said,
yeah.
Very, very sessionable. So forget your Bud Lights.
Yeah, and just, I mean, if you guys don't know what sessionable means, that's typically beer below 5% ABV. They call them sessionable beers because you can drink them in a session and you don't get too shit-faced where, your day is ruined, basically. I mean,
To where you can still function.
You can, you can't really operate cars or machinery or all that, but you can like walk to, your hotel room or something, for example, and not get, passed out. It's blackout drunk on a BA stout that's 19% or something.
Yeah, because that's never happened to either one of us before.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that. I mean,
no.
I've just heard stories,
Yes. Don't drink and drive. All right, we're getting that one out of the way right there. Yeah.
Yeah, drink responsibly, of course. Yeah, this is a really good start, and I'm stoked because, I mean, I bought these sight unseen. So Tabor, it just popped up, and I'm like, cool. I really think the festival's awesome. I'm going to buy them. I know there's some IPAs mixed in, and if you guys follow my channel at all, IPA is probably my least favorite style of beer, so... But I'll give any beer a chance, unless it's a macro brew, because I've been there, done that, had them all. I don't care if there's a Lime-A-Rita Bud Light or whatever. It's not going to entice me to try it, sorry. All right, this is a good one.
Solid, for sure.
Good start.
Dude, great start.
We hope you enjoyed our Fresh Fest impressions. Thanks to my buddy Kent for joining up and sharing the beers. Stay tuned for more first impressions of the 7 Fresh Fest beers. Like, subscribe, and let us know what you think. More great beer content's on the way. # Fresh Fridays, and we'll see you next Friday for Fresh Fest beer number 2, a dry hop Pilsner. Cheers.